Good afternoon. Welcome to Score Talk with Birdman. Today, our special guest is Ian Clark, friend of the channel, friend in real life. He's actually 1/3 of the Batman show and a YouTuber in his own right with his own channel. Check him out if you're not subscribed, Ian Clark. How are you, sir?
I'm very, very well. I'm really looking forward to the questions you're going to ask me because I have no idea what you're going to ask me. I've got a vague idea, but
I haven't shown them to you beforehand because I haven't written them down. They're all in my head. So hopefully,
oh dear.
hopefully they make sense. So for those who don't know you, who are just discovering you, what got you into movie scores?
I've always said that I going back to 1977, I always thought it was Star Wars. Didn't actually see it till 78 here in the UK, but before that, I remember about 1977 seeing my first ever James Bond film, which was Thunderball, and loving it and loving the music for that. And then I became a fan of James Bond, and I loved the music for that. So yeah, it was probably James Bond that initially got me into noticing music in films. And I was one of those kids as well that always recorded theme tunes off the TV with a tape recorder. I had loads and loads of tapes of just really badly recorded tunes and theme tunes and all the background noise. My mother with a Hoover and yeah. You know, I listened to those tapes until they were all stretched and until they were just you couldn't play them anymore, and you had to wait again for the program to come around again so you could re-record it. Yeah, that's where it all started. 77 was probably the year that it started for me.
So what was the first soundtrack you bought?
Next question. Funny you should ask that. That's it there.
Star Wars?
On tape. Star Wars. That's the first soundtrack I bought with my own pocket money. I've no idea how much that cost. I haven't played it in over probably 30 years.
Wow.
But that was the first soundtrack that I ever bought. Now, this was actually a mistake because I had heard the music of Star Wars on the radio, but it wasn't the music from Star Wars. It was the Miko disco version. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I thought that was the actual music from Star Wars because we had all the hype about Star Wars for months before we actually saw it, as I say, because it didn't come out till 78 here in the UK. So I pestered my mum and dad to let me have the money to buy this, and they bought it for me, and we played it in the car going home. And I was expecting the Miko disco version, and we got the London Symphony Orchestra, and you know what? I was crushingly disappointed. Yeah, but this turned me round, and I eventually grew to love this. So going from expecting a disco version of this to John Williams, this turned me into the proper music fan that I am now. So yeah, that's my first ever soundtrack, and I will never get rid of that unless I lose it or there's a fire.
So you got to listen to the music for Star Wars before you ever saw the film?
Months and months before. Again, I had this. See, I have prepared somehow. I had that months before the film came out, The Story of Star Wars. And that had music from the film. Now, I got that after I'd got that. So if I'd got that LP, The Story of Star Wars, I'd have known what the music was like. But yeah, so it was probably literally 6 months before we saw the film that we've been listening to the music. So
how did that affect the movie for you?
It didn't. I was probably just 10 at the time, so even though I was well acquainted with, I don't know how long that is. It's about 40 minutes or so, something like that.
Mhm.
The film's 2 hours. It didn't affect my enjoyment of it because I'd read the comic as well, the Marvel comic. So I knew the ins and outs of the story. I knew exactly what happened, but it was like watching going in fresh and anew when I saw the film, and it just being a 10-year-old seeing Star Wars, I think, is the perfect age for that. So I was just absolutely taken away with it and blown away. And when you come out of the cinema and you've got a grin on your face and you feel like jelly because you're just so excited and just so overwhelmed by the thrill of it all. That's how I felt. So it didn't matter that we'd been exposed to everything for 6 months beforehand. Seeing the film was the icing on the cake for me. So yeah, it didn't ruin my enjoyment of it one iota. And at that stage, we didn't know there was going to be an Empire Strikes Back or a Return of the Jedi. It was just Star Wars. That was it. There was no talk of sequels because we didn't have internet or anything like that. So we didn't get any kind of news for years to come until it appeared in the news, sequel to Star Wars. So yeah.
Well, where'd you go from Star Wars? Did you go to get a James Bond thereafter?
The first James Bond film I ever saw at the cinema was in 1979. Here in the UK, it was a big deal having a James Bond film on television. So Thunderball was the first one I saw, and I can't remember the order I saw them in after that. It was probably Goldfinger next, because British TV used to show. They didn't show them in any particular order. They just showed a James Bond film, but it was always on special holidays like Christmas, and we have things called bank holidays here in the UK, which are just holidays for banks, I suppose. But we have about 6 or 7 of them sprinkled throughout the year. But the big kind of holiday film always used to be a James Bond film. So again, I was there with my tape recorder, recording as much as I could on probably a C60 tape.
You're doing that in the movie theater?
No. This was on TV.
Okay.
I never even thought about taking a tape recorder into the movie theater. No, I'd say I'd seen about 3 or 4 James Bond films before I saw Moonraker for the first time. That was the first James Bond film I ever saw in the theatre. And I saw that in the Odeon Theatre in a town called Aldershot in the south of England in 1979. And again, it was another one of those just blown away. I knew nothing about the film. I knew it involved a space shuttle and it was Roger Moore as James Bond, but I had no idea. So it was all brand new. They didn't show many trailers on TV. We didn't have, still didn't have the internet for decades to come. So again, I came out of the cinema like jelly, stupid grin. But since 1979, I've seen every single James Bond film in the cinema. But that was the first one I ever saw in the cinema. And John Barry, it was at that time it was John Williams for me as my favorite composer, because he was basically the only composer I knew at that stage, which was not a bad thing. And then John Barry became my second favorite composer. But there was another big composer just waiting in the wings to come out, but I wasn't going to become aware of Jerry Goldsmith until a couple of years later. I know Star Trek: The Motion Picture came out in '79, but I didn't see it until it came out on video, and I saw a really bad copy of it in 1981, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I know it's not a favorite for some people, but I loved it. I just loved the whole mystery of it, and again, the music was just fantastic. I thought, oh, who is this music by? Jerry Goldsmith. So that was my introduction to Jerry Goldsmith, was Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and probably in about 1981 I saw that. Sorry, have I just answered a question you were going to ask, or I don't know?
No, you're fine. So Goldsmith is your favorite film composer now. Would you say that?
Yeah, still. I mean, Probably, yeah. I think it's just with the fact he's done so much. Jerry Goldsmith and John Williams are up there at the top. I'd probably say Jerry Goldsmith's my favorite, just because I've got so many Jerry Goldsmith soundtracks. I think I've got about 160, probably about 30 LPs, which I've probably now got most of those on CD. But yeah, as I said, Star Trek was the first time I became aware of Jerry Goldsmith, and then that was sealed probably about 1983 when I first saw First Blood on video when it came out here in the UK, and I was just amazed by the music. There's a scene in First Blood where he steals a truck and heads back into town, and he bursts through a roadblock, and in a spectacular jump, and cars go everywhere. But the kind of the First Blood theme kicks in a triumphant version, and it just sent tingles up my back, and I just thought, wow, this is incredible. Just the visuals and that music. And I thought, I have to get that soundtrack. I have to get that soundtrack, because I was aware now that you could get all these things on LP. So, but I couldn't find it anywhere. And there was only 2 record shops in Carlisle, which is in the north of England, which is where I was at the time. It wasn't in any of those. So it wasn't until a couple of years later that I actually got the soundtrack to First Blood. But yeah. And then I discovered a shop. Sorry.
How old were you?
First Blood came out 82. So, 82 it came out. So I was 14. I probably saw it when I was 15 when it came out on video. So again, that's probably a perfect age to see that kind of film. I probably wouldn't have been allowed to see it when I was 10 anyway. But yeah, it was about that stage, about 83, 84, that I started seriously thinking about, well, I can buy this music on LP. So yeah, but as I say, it took me a couple of years before I managed to track down the soundtrack for First Blood. Yeah.
So did you
Next question.
intentionally become a soundtrack collector, or did you just kind of like happen to fall into it?
I wasn't consciously collecting. I just wanted the LP for the music to listen to. I didn't think of it as a collection. It was just another great piece of music that I wanted to listen to. It was only probably about 85, 86 when I'd had a few of these things, and I looked at all the records that I had, and I was thinking, well, probably 80 to 90% of my record collection is all film soundtracks. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm a film soundtrack collector. But until that stage, I didn't really think of it as a collection. I look at all the CDs and stuff I have now, and I think, well, yeah, it is a collection. But that wasn't what I was trying. I wasn't trying to collect stuff. I just wanted to own it so I could listen to it. That's the way I thought about it.
What other types of music do you have besides film scores?
I have some classical music. Early on, I bought a couple of Queen LPs, and have you heard of the Pet Shop Boys?
Mm-hmm. We have those
British duo from the 80s and 90s. Oh yeah, they're probably the same people actually.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, I bought those. I thought they would be. I bought the Queen LPs just so I could have some LPs in my collection, so that if somebody came around and said, well, I've got a Queen LP, so I didn't think I was a weirdo for having all this film music that they weren't particularly interested in. But in the years since, I've come to like Queen, so that turned out all right. I like the Pet Shop Boys, but now it's, you know what? It's always been film music for me, always. But I've been a no, ashamed isn't the word. I've always tried to keep it quiet because nobody I know up until recently, like people like yourself, had no interest in film music at all. They didn't really understand why I would enjoy it. So yeah, it's always been film music. But I have a very broad outlook on music. If I like it, I like it. It doesn't have to be film music. I just like what I like. But it just so happens that I like a lot of film music, and film music is what excites me. I find it emotional. It's very hard to put into words why I like it. I know that's what you're trying to get at, but I really don't know. It's just I love it. I just love film music. That's not a very exciting answer, but there you go.
What would like your top 10 film scores be? If you had to come up with a top 10 list, I mean, I'm not one to come up with a top 10 list, but if you had to.
Okay, and this keeps cropping up in conversation and things on Facebook and people doing their top 10s and whatever. I can do a top 10, but you ask me again in a day's time, a week's time, it's going to change slightly. So I would always have E.T. in there.
Okay.
I would always have Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom in there. That's my favorite indie score. I would always have The Empire Strikes Back in there. I would always have Star Trek the Motion Picture in there. I would always have 6 other scores in there. At this moment, I'd probably say Legend, Jerry Goldsmith. Star Trek 2, James Horner. How many is that? That must be 10. Birdman Logic, that's 10.
5, I think that's 5.
5, okay.
Maybe 6.
Air Force One. I love Air Force One. Total Recall, Jerry Goldsmith. Jaws. I love Jaws.
So you're pretty even split between Goldsmith and Williams in that list. You got one James Horner.
I think so. No, there's some James Horner in there, but yeah. See, this to do a good top list, it would have to be top 50, because to whittle it down to 10 is really quite hard. Even I would always say E.T. and Empire Strikes Back are always going to be in there, and Star Trek the Motion Picture. Top 3 is always easy. It's always going to be those 3, I think. Yeah, it's a very hard thing to do, and it will always change. It'll always be shifting slightly. There'll be a core group that's always there, but there are so many, and it's one of those things. When people ask you for your top 20 things and you end up with 407 in your list.
Yeah.
The whole Birdman Logic thing. That's the way I feel, because you get to your 10 or your 20 or whatever it is, and you think, oh no, that one needs to be there. But if I want that one as well, I'd have to take this one out. But okay, we'll just add that one in there and make it 11. Oh, but this one needs to be in there as well. I'll make it 12. That's the only way to do it. Birdman Logic rules. So that's the only way to do it. Is I love them all. That's
Have you ever
version.
bought a soundtrack and I'm just not feeling it, but then you've gone back to it years later and you're like, yeah, okay.
Well, David Pensack emailed me a couple of weeks ago saying, you ever thought about doing a video on, things that you bought and then gone, that's a bit disappointed with that. I bought Warlock, Jerry Goldsmith, when that first came out, because at that time I was anything new that came out with Jerry Goldsmith, I was just buying it without ever having seen the film. I saw the film, which I thought was a bit odd. I think I've only seen it once and I can't really remember it. And I listened to the score and I thought the score's a bit odd as well. And when I listened to it, I didn't I didn't really like it. I listened to it a couple of times, and then it kind of quietly got slipped in the shelf and not really touched again. But I reviewed it. It came out an expanded version a few years ago, which I missed out on. But that a slightly expanded one appeared on Apple Music or something, and I listened to it again, and you know what, I really liked it. So that worked for me. There's another blind buy, which was Jerry Goldsmith, was Criminal Law, which I bought on LP, which is an all electronic score. Now, Jerry Goldsmith has done a few all electronic scores, and some of them are pretty good. But this was just awful. It was just, to me, it just seemed drones, you know, kind of two sides of an LP of just drones of I don't know what. And then I thought, no, I'm not listening to that again. If I never find that, if it gets lost in the, I don't care. And then a few years later, I got it out again. I thought, oh, you know, maybe some time's gone by. Put it back on. No, it still sounded awful, and it still sounds awful today. So, more recent scores. I was when Hans Zimmer's. This is not a Hans Zimmer bashing because I like Hans Zimmer. But when his score for Man of Steel came out, I thought Hans Zimmer doing a Superman film. I thought, wow, we're going to end up with a really kind of meaty, just Hans Zimmer, just superhero theme, and I was disappointed. But it's in Superman, and John Williams is in my bones. Nothing's going to beat that.
It is hard to get over that mountain.
Yeah, which isn't fair, I suppose, but it's in me, so it just didn't compare. So that just felt a little disappointing. It kind of worked in the film because the film was a bit of a bit more grim and kind of downbeat and dark, which I didn't really feel with Superman either. But you know, it's okay. But that disappointed me. But a lot of time, a score will disappoint if I listen to it away from the film because it's not. Most scores aren't really designed to be listened to on their own. They're designed to fit with the film. Sometimes they work fine with the film, but sometimes they're just, you know, not an easy listen. Like Planet of the Apes. I remember buying that. I'd seen the film numerous times, but I thought, well, I need that because it's, you know, a landmark score of Jerry Goldsmith. But it's not particularly easy to listen to, or nice to listen to, and it's not something you're going to. Oh, you know, I'm going to do some housework. I'm going to put Planet of the Apes on.
I can't listen to it. So yeah.
No, I mean it's very clever stuff. You see the film; it works brilliantly with the film. But to listen to that by itself, it's not particularly, in my experience, listenable. Yeah, so I mean that was a slight disappointment. I thought, you know, well, maybe it'll bring back memories of the film, but you know, you listen to a few tracks, you think, yeah, I don't turn that off. That's not really what I want to listen to. So there's a few like that, but it's not saying that they're bad scores. It's just some scores are more designed for a film. Some work brilliantly away from the film.
Well, back to the Warlock movie. Was it better with the extra music? Do you feel like the original release was just lacking enough cohesion because it wasn't enough music?
No, I don't know because I've listened to both versions since, and I've maybe it's me just getting older and being more open to stuff and mellowing out. But just my whole attitude changed to it. So I don't know whether it was just because I was young. I had this thing when I was younger that, you know, if I liked music for a film, I used to buy the LP, and I immediately just went for the kind of the end title suite, you know, because that had all the kind of main themes from the film. I thought, yeah, I want to listen to that theme that I really liked, and then I forget about the rest of the score. And this is something I found recently that I've got loads of scores that I did that to kind of decades ago and never really listened to the scores themselves, but now I'm digging out CDs and putting them on and listening and finding, you know, just treasures actually in the body of the score that I never listened to before because I was just cutting to the chase and cutting to that end title suite. So yeah, I think it's just a sign of getting older and wanting to listen to the music that's actually in the film rather than just that theme. I remember going to see seeing Quigley Down Under for the first time with music by Basil Polidoris, and loving the film and loving the score throughout the film. But you know, when the main theme comes in over the end credits, oh wow, that's brilliant. You know, it's ages since I've had that enjoyment of a film and its score, and that was 30 years ago now. But again, it was a couple of years before I managed to get the score on CD. And again, I did the thing of skipping to the end credits just to hear that theme, and missed out on all the good stuff that was before it. But again, I've got all these CDs which I'm discovering all over again. So yeah, I think it's just a sign of me getting older, being more open. Yeah, I've forgotten what the question was now.
Well, I have the standard release of Warlock, and I heard like, oh, you gotta get Warlock, and I got it, and I listened to it. I was kind of like, okay, you know. So you file it away, and thought, well, maybe if there's something on that expanded release that just pulls it all together and makes it that much better, I would track that down. But
no, the expanded release has got more music on it. But if you're still having trouble with the normal release and it's still not doing it for you, the expanded one isn't going to go. It's not going to be a revelation. It's going to go, oh no, this changes the whole thing. Yeah. When did you have you had the same kind of love of film music since you were a kid, or is it a new thing for you?
I didn't start buying anything till late elementary school, but you reach a point that you got to transition out of G.I. Joe and Transformers. And I was in comic books for a while, and then I just kind of like, I loved movies, and you can buy them on, well, I mean, back then you really couldn't buy them on VHS, but because they were $90. But like movie posters and soundtracks have stood the test of time for not quite 40 years. So, but yeah, I remember Star Wars music, Indiana Jones music, Conan the Barbarian, Superman. I love TV themes like A-Team, Magnum PI, Knight Rider, Airwolf. Always loved those. Probably more than the shows, but it's always. I guess it's always been in my life. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
You see Superman on HBO, and then you grab a blanket and tie it around your neck, and you go out in the yard, and you'd be like humming the theme song.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about TV shows there. I mean, I remember. Do you remember North and South? Did you ever watch it?
I live in the South. Yeah, I remember coming on TV, but I never watched it. It seemed a little adult for me at the time.
Yeah, well, I was probably 16, probably about 16, 17 when it came out here in the UK. You know what? I never watched it, but I must have caught the end of one at some point, and I heard Bill Conti's end title music to that, which is kind of an upbeat kind of march version of the main theme, and I just thought, wow, this is brilliant. But I never wanted to watch the show. It just seemed a bit, I don't know what I thought. It just seemed a bit not to my taste. But I tuned in every week it was on just to listen to that theme music. And then the Varese LP came out coupled with The Right Stuff in about 85, the re-recordings he did with the London Symphony. And I was thinking, oh, I'll be able to have my own copy of this. But that version of the theme wasn't on that suite on that, which is a shame. It's a great recording and it's a great few tracks, but it was only kind of decades later when Varese issued the CDs of North and South. I managed to get a copy of that end title music because I love that.
There's a couple different versions of it though.
Yeah, there's I think there's the full score, and they call it Book 1 and Book 2, which is on I think 4 CDs altogether. But I got the kind of, it was a best of, a kind of cut down version that came out, which was fine for me. There's an hour and 20 minutes of music on there, good overview of the score, but more importantly, includes that end credit version of the theme.
So for you, it's complete.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with the version I've got of that one. But yeah.
So, are you not a completist?
Do you know what? If I had the money, or money wasn't an option, I would be getting everything that John Williams did, everything that Jerry Goldsmith did, those two composers. And it would be just those two composers. If I started saying I wanted to get everything that Elmer Bernstein had done, everything that James, it would just get ridiculous, and I would never be able to listen to it all. I'm fairly practical when it comes to music. I buy music because I want to listen to it, and if I buy 4,000 CDs, there's no way I'm going to be able to listen to all those. I haven't said that. I've got a silly amount of CDs. I think I've got about 700 or so. Well, it's not a silly amount compared to some people's collections. But
Eric Woods.
Yeah, well, yeah, I thought that first of all, but Eric gets the stuff sent to him as well. So he's probably beaten them off at the door with a stick. But
yeah,
well, he's probably not. But yeah, but having said that, I would love to have that. I would love to have that collection, just to have it, a wall full of CDs and just go, that's mine, and then have somebody come in and say, what's all that? And then I'll say, oh, that's my film music, and then they'd probably just walk out and never see me again. But yeah, in an ideal world, I would be a completist, and I probably was that way about 20 years ago. But when you start buying a couple of CDs or a couple of LPs that are just complete, what we say in the UK are duffers, like Criminal Law, you just think, well, why did I spend money on that? If I hadn't bought that, I could have bought that.
I thought that way about Mr. Baseball.
I still remember when you opened that up.
About this, but I went ahead and did it anyways.
we said that it was pretty crap, and then you bought it. And maybe I was thinking when you opened that up, I thought, well, maybe there's something we're missing. Maybe it is quite good now. Maybe it was one of those CDs that I listened to 20 years ago and is now great. But no, it's not great. I mean, I haven't seen it's probably one of the films I haven't seen, but it might work in the film. But
it's no Field of Dreams.
No, it's not. I mean, now if you were to ask me top 5 films, not top 5, not top 10, Field of Dreams will always be in my top 5 films. I think that's an almost perfect film. And I don't know, I've lost count how many times I've seen it, but it gets me every time. It's just a combination of great writing, great performances, and great music. Brilliant.
Well, like when I ask, because I struggle with this, like being like, am I like how hardcore of a completist am I? I've got every John Williams film score that's commercially available, and then I've got some imports, and then there's stuff that's never been released, like film scores, like Daddy-O or the Rare Breed or Gidget Goes to Rome, so on and so forth. And I would like to see those come out on CD at some point. And then you've got all the Boston Pops recordings, and I've got all those. But then you get into the territory of like, okay, well, the Reader's Digest put out a 4 CD set of just stuff they just threw together, but it says John Williams Boston Pops on it. And it's all stuff that's previously released, but it's in a new format on the CD. So does that fall into the category? Does the disc that he played piano on back in the 1960s for Henry Mancini qualify as a John Williams completist? How far do you take it?
Well, you've got to make your own rules, haven't you? Really, I
Because
mean, if
according to the Discogs, there's like 4,000 something albums that John Williams is attached to.
you see that,
That's a lot.
yeah, that's a lot. Now, if I was being completist, my way of looking at it would be, if I wanted to get everything that John Williams had done, it would be films that John Williams had composed for. That would be my complete collection. I would probably include his conducting as well. But when you get to things like he played piano on that score, and there was only kind of 12 minutes in that film, so he went ding 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 ding. That wouldn't bother me that I hadn't got that one, or a score where John Williams had been standing outside the building when it was recorded. At what stage do you say completist? But it's not for anybody to judge. It's as I say, it's got to be your rules. It's got to be what you want to have and what you feel. If you don't get something, you're going to feel not quite right that you haven't got that. So that should be part of your collection. So it's what you're happy with and what you'd be content with having. So, but yeah, for me, it would be films he composed for, and probably the Boston Pops recordings, if I was going to go for that complete collection.
I'm thinking you're close to having everything from Goldsmith.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
You're well over halfway there.
I probably, yeah. But again, it wasn't. Maybe 20, 25 years ago, I probably had it in my mind that I want to get everything that he's ever done. But when you start hearing a couple, like, again, I say bring up Criminal Law, and you think, oh God, why do I need this in my collection? I'm not going to listen to it. But again, at that time, I was thinking, well, but I've got it, and I can say I've got it, which was more. But what now at my age now, what's more important to me is I enjoy listening to it. Having said that, still in the back of my mind though, that if something's a reasonable price and I haven't got it, yeah, I'll get that. I'll have that. Because having said that, on the Batman show last Monday, we were talking about what was it, Warning Shot?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Eric had mentioned that there was extra stuff at the end of that CD. Well, I managed to find a copy on eBay that was a decent price, so I've ordered that and it's on its way to me. So, but I actually listened to some of the musical Warning Shot, and I quite liked it, so that's okay. But yeah, there is still that completist in me, but it's, again, with Jerry Goldsmith, it would just be films that he's actually composed music for if I was going to go for that.
Would you chase after the TV work?
I've got a couple. I've got the 2 Thriller albums, 2 volumes of that. I know I wouldn't, because some of his TV work, it's only a few minutes long for a few minutes of music for Twilight Zone episodes and things like that. And again, it works fine in the episode, but it's not something I would listen to over and over again. But again, if money was no option, I probably would get those. Yeah, probably. But I'm in no hurry to get those ones. It's mainly the films. I was quite surprised. I haven't bought Black Patch yet, or the Man. Was it the Man and Black Patch that were coupled in one album?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was quite surprised. I was thinking early Goldsmith. It's not going to be the Goldsmith we know, but it's on streaming now, that album, and I've listened to it, the Black Patch, and I was quite surprised. It really is very good.
I greatly enjoyed Seconds.
Do you know what?
A couple months ago. Yeah.
I've got the I've got the La La Land one, which was weirdly coupled with IQ.
Do
you know that album?
I think I may have that somewhere.
Yeah, it just seems like an odd couple.
I usually don't care for the combo albums like that. I mean, unless you put it on 2 CDs, but when you put it all on 1 CD, because I'll start listening to it and I'm in this mindset, and then it goes to this other mindset and just kind of like throws me off.
Yeah, but sometimes if you get a combo album, I always like to think that maybe they've given it some thought, and we'll put 2 scores on this album that complement each other. But to me, IQ, which is a bit of a lightweight kind of romantic comedy, and then Seconds, which is nowhere near romantic and lightweight.
Very
It's just
Halloweeny.
yeah, it's I don't know why those two are together, but that's I need to listen to Seconds again. I've got the film somewhere on Blu-ray. Which have you seen the film?
I haven't, but I've been meaning to.
Yeah, I mean it is a great film, and Rock Hudson doing a really great performance, but it's a really dark film as well. But I need to listen to that again because to see if I need to get the expanded score. So yeah, if I'm still interested in the score, I will get the expanded version of that.
Do you have a Grail item or items?
Either something that's already out there released that I want to get that I haven't got, or music that hasn't been released. Anything?
Both.
Can it be any? Both.
Yeah.
Okay. I think with everybody, would love to see kind of remastered, complete versions of Star Wars.
All nine.
All nine,
Yeah.
and the Indiana Jones scores.
Yes.
But again, I think I don't know if it'll happen with Star Wars. It'd be nice. But Intrad have got a kind of relationship with Disney. La La Land seemed to have a great relationship with John Williams, but I don't know how much control he has over the Star Wars music. So I don't know how that would happen. But it would be great. But it would probably be one of those things that they'd bring it out in a massive box set, which would be incredibly expensive.
Very.
But I've always said, if you did them individually, like maybe a 3-disc set, or 4-disc set, whatever it takes to fit all the music on, but sell it as a 3 or 4-disc set, so that everybody has the chance to buy it, not just people that have got, like, I don't know how much it would be, probably $400 or whatever it is for that amount of discs. Anyway, we're getting into marketing now, but yeah, I would love to see a complete remastered Star Wars and Indiana Jones. For stuff that's already out there, some of my holy grails I got a few years ago. I had a bit more money back then, but I spent ages trying to get the score for The Burbs, and it was just again crazy prices. People were selling it for £100, not $100, £100. But it was one of those things. I don't know where I think I came across it on Amazon from some secondary seller, and I managed to get it for about £35. So I thought, yep, I'll have that.
Good
So
buy.
I got that. Yeah. So I was quite pleased with that. I tried for ages to get the deluxe edition of Michael Giacchino's Star Trek, and again that was sold out, and people were selling it for £100, £200. Just wasn't worth paying that kind of money. And then Varese did a reissue, and I found out about the Varese International Store, which is based here in the UK, and it was £27. I thought, oh. So I managed to get that.
Is it still in stock?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Let's have a look. Varese. It was earlier this year. So let's have a look. CD Club and limited editions. No, it doesn't look like it. No, it doesn't look like it is in stock. It doesn't appear in there. No. But yeah, I was chuffed to get that. In fact, I was chuffed to get all 3 of those eventually. But I'm sure there are loads out there. It's there are ways and means of getting some of these things, but it's just having the money to do it. I mean, things like the Harry Potter box set, the John Williams Disaster box set. There's loads of stuff out there. again, if money wasn't an option, I would just be on all these websites just ordering stuff. So, but sometimes you find a bargain down the line. So yeah. So yeah, in answer to the question, there's tons of stuff out there that I want to get. But another holy grail that was Ghostbusters, Elmer
Yeah.
Bernstein's score for that. Now, Perez did one. When was that? Was that like 10, 15 years ago? And again, that sold out really quick, and then was being sold for hundreds of dollars and pounds and whatever. And then Sony reissued it. It didn't have the same amount of music on it, did it? The Sony reissue from a couple of years ago. But it was a version that I could afford, and I think it sells for £10. So I was chuffed to get that. Chuffed, there's that word again. Yeah, there's loads of scores. Eiger Sanction. I was so glad when Entrada issued that. Was it last
That
year?
came out of nowhere. I'm like, really? Y'all are
Yeah, I know.
doing this?
Yeah.
Did you have the original release of the Eiger Sanction?
No, I've never had it. I didn't even have it on LP.
I love that Versera Band CD that I got of it, and then the new one came out. I was like, this is just like 10 times better. It's so much more music on it. It just knocks the score that much further out of the park for me.
Yeah. Do you know what? That was another score that I listened to kind of 30, 35 years ago. Loved the film, and I loved the main theme. But I wasn't a fan of all the kind of the jazzy stuff, and it just didn't work for me. But over the years, I've mellowed. I've become more open to stuff, and I love it. I love it now, and I'm just so glad to have that 2-disc release. I was listening to it this afternoon, waiting to do this, and I was so pleased to get that. I'm so pleased that Entrada put it out. But Entrada have got a great knack of just putting stuff out that nobody saw coming. I mean, Willow, the expanded Willow. Nobody
that
saw
blew
that.
up the soundtrack community like an A-bomb. Just boom.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I was so pleased to get that. But it wasn't something. I looked at everybody joking about. So what every time something came out, says, "Oh yeah, but what I really want is expanded Willow." Ha ha, lol, blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, everybody got it, and it was. Yeah, but as soon as that came out, people were saying, "Oh, but where are all the alternates? Where's all the stuff that?" Just be happy we've got this one.
I will say I much prefer the people in the soundtrack community than I do the people in the toy community.
Really? Why?
The toy community is never happy with anything, and they complain about everything all the time. Just get on any YouTube video about the new action figure coming out, and it's just like gripe. Like, the price is too high. I can't find it. I mean, I can't find CDs in the store anymore that I want to buy. They just don't stock them. I just ordered it online. Oh, I got it. I got it now. And I remember back in high school, I would go to my local record store, and they had like a huge binder of everything you can order. And like every week, I ordered like 5 things. Like none of them would ever come in. I was like, out of stock, out of print, out of stock, out of print, out of print, all the time. If I want to find most anything now, I can go to eBay, I can go to Discogs, and then it's a question of, do I just want to pay that much money for it?
That's the thing. I know with the internet, I'd say if you've got the money, the majority of stuff that you want is out there. It depends how much you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
But if you keep looking and you're patient, every now and then you'll get what you want at a very decent price. So another thing about. So I was going to say, it's another thing about getting older. I'm becoming a lot more patient, and I'm willing to wait a lot longer for stuff. So yeah, Sorry to interrupt. Go on. You were saying something.
Oh, I was chasing Goodbye Mr. Chips for like the longest time. And because I made a list of the John Williams stuff I did not have. And I'm like, okay, Goodbye Mr. Chips is probably gonna be like the last purchase item because people want $200-300 for it. And I had it in my eBay, send me a notification if one pops up. And it was on Saturday night. And I got the alert on my phone, new listing for Goodbye Mr. Chips. And I clicked on it. It was a thrift store out on the West Coast, no picture. It said, Goodbye Mr. Chips soundtrack. I think they had like $50 or $60 on it. And I'm like, there's no picture. Is it the right one? But it had the UPC code. And I'm like, huh. So I did a search for the UPC code, and it was a 3-disc set from Film Score Monthly. And that was it. I didn't have to think about it. I bought it, and it showed up like a week later. So like the John Williams Holy Grail of Goodbye Mr. Chips at an affordable price was mine. I breathed a sigh of relief.
But isn't that a great feeling though when you come across something like that, something that you really really wanted,
Yeah.
and at that particular moment, you've got the money to buy it, no matter what the price was, but you end up with that thing, and you end up with it in your hand, and you just think, oh.
Yeah, and I really thought it would be the last one that I would get. It's like, okay, this will be like the last one. I'll have to swallow it down and just pay the $200-250 for it, but then it'll be complete. Yeah, I got it like $50-60, and I'm like, thank you.
Fantastic. I think I'm just going off camera for a second here. You can still hear me though, so that's good. I've mentioned this before, I think, on the Batman show, but this is the most expensive thing I've ever bought soundtrack wise, and it's the one that you got for Eric as well, the Jerry Goldsmith 20th Century Fox. Now,
how much do you pay for yours?
I had money to burn at the stage that I
no
got this,
judgment
right?
on my part, my friend.
that was going to be my next thing. Don't judge me on this, but I paid £200. Yeah, I know. But
do you want to know what I paid for Eric's?
Do I? Hang on. Yeah, go on.
I think with shipping, I paid like $90-something. That's why I got it, because he had said he didn't have it, and it's like you can't buy anything for Eric that he doesn't already have. He's got every damn thing that's ever been printed, and it's like it was there, and it was like I'm like, this has to be a misprint. I clicked the buy it button because it was just so ridiculously cheap for what it is.
I was about to say I'm weeping on the inside now, but I'm just about to weep on the outside as well. But yeah,
every other one though was like over $200 though. So
that being said, at the time I had money and it didn't leave me out of pocket, and I got it. And when I actually got that in my hands, I was quite happy. But I mean, since then, the majority of stuff on that has come out in all those La La Land ones.
It's a different presentation, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's been better presentation seen. There's been remastered and restored and revitalized, and all those La La Land releases of Jerry Goldsmith at 20th Century. Is it La La Land? Yeah.
Yeah. There's like 4 volumes so far.
Yeah. Again, they're all on my wish list as well. But
okay.
But I still am chuffed that I had this. It was just a moment in time, and it was celebrating Jerry Goldsmith, and it was celebrating Jerry Goldsmith and the year that he died as well, which is kind of special. And a lot of love and effort went into this. And at the time it came out, there was tons of stuff on here that wasn't available, like Damnation Alley. I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't see half the stuff that's on there. Spies was on there. It was just a smorgasbord of wonderful stuff, and it's a great set as well. I'm kind of embarrassed I paid that amount of money for it, but I have it now.
That's like if you told me you were going to buy it, and like I'd be like, well, you're going to pay at least $200 for it, because that's the going rate.
Yeah. So
it's like I've been looking at the box set for the 10 Commandments, and it's like They were starting around $500. So I found one box set for just south of 200, but the guy said the box is crushed with stains and there's mold growing on some of the CDs. I'm like,
Wow.
how about
And he's
$20?
selling it for that amount?
Yeah.
Wow.
How about 20? You know, and
20 bucks.
there's a Bernard Herrmann box set I've been looking for, and I found one that was, you know, affordable, but it was missing like half of the disc, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Why would you even advertise that? I mean,
Why don't you just like break the disc up individually and just sell them for like $20?
yeah.
But you know, people, if you can get it, I'm happy for you. I'm not going that route though.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
that is a nice box set though.
It is, and it smells nice as well.
Do you ever like put it underneath your pillow at night and just like cuddle with it?
Do you know what? Sometimes when you get a release that you've been wanting for a long time, or whatever, or it's a score that you've wanted for a long time, and it's just been released, or you've never had it. It's hard to put into words that excitement you feel when you actually get it, and you just you want to play it, but you I know as soon as you get something new, you just, you know, the scimitar of slaughter, and it's out, and it's. But you know, sometimes you just want to just sit there and just admire it before you get that cellophane off, and there we go. But yeah, there's a certain amount of pride in getting these things, especially when it's stuff that you've been wanting for so long. There was something I bought recently. Yeah, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
The 3-disc set.
The 3-disc set
from Quartet Records.
Quartet Records, and they're turning out to be a great company as well. But I was so pleased to be able to get that. It's one of those things that when it first came, was it a couple of years ago, or it hasn't been out that long, but it didn't. It kind of sold out, but it didn't sell out because Quartet still had copies of it. But everybody on Facebook was saying, "Oh, it's out of print now," but you know, it wasn't. Quartet still had it. But I thought it was sold out because I just believe everybody on Facebook.
Yeah, I think Entrada sold out what they had, and then everyone just thought, well, it's gone. But Quartet still had it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but you know, stupid me just believing everybody on the internet, telling the truth. But when it came at the right time. It came at, you know, Quartet have still got it in stock, and Quartet were doing that sale.
Oh, I remember that sale.
Oh, you remember it well. You bought out Quartet. But again, when this actually, I ordered it on a Sunday and it came on the Wednesday from Spain.
Yeah, I got mine in like 6 calendar days, I think.
Yeah, and that's the States.
That's American. Yeah,
that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was like a kid again getting this. It was like, wow. But again, cellophane on it. Didn't want to take it off. I just wanted to admire it first of all, with, you know, brand new. But yeah. But you know what? You know, saying, you know, sleep with it under the pillow. I take the little insert booklets, because they are like little books, and they're the perfect length to read in bed. You know, if you're tired, you can read one of those and you're just ready to go to sleep. But yeah. Anyway, but I don't sleep with them under my pillow, but I do take them to bed sometimes. But I respect them in the morning.
Do you have a preferred listening medium? LP, tape, 8-track, CD, streaming?
What I do, if I get a CD, I'll rip it to my computer, and then I'll download it either to my iPad or my iPod. iPod? Is that what they call it? Yeah, iPod Touch. Just because if I'm running out of room on my iPad, and I'm running out of room on my iPod Touch. So if that's the case, I'll listen to it on my Blu-ray player is a very good CD player as well. So I'll listen to it through these headphones. So, but generally speaking, I listen. I'll rip everything just for ease of access. I've got 40 hours of music on my iPad, and it's so easy to, if I'm listening to one track and I say, oh, this reminds me of that one. Oh, did instantly, I can listen to the next one and blah 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 blah. So yeah, it depends. I mean, I still like getting a CD out and putting it actually in a machine and listening to it that way. The sound is so much better than just listening to it straight from a ripped device. But as I said on Batman Show and previously, I've still got all my vinyl, but I don't listen to them anymore because I've got a turntable to listen to it on. But I still love the fact that I have them. I put I put a post on a Varese Facebook page the other day, and I put some of my Varese LPs on there, and I said I don't listen to them anymore, and I don't have that many actual Varese straight from Varese LPs. I have a lot that have been licensed to other companies like Coliseum and TER Records and all that kind of thing. But I still like the fact. I still like the size. That is it, 12-inch square or whatever the size of an LP. I still love that size, and the fact that you don't need to look at the artwork with a magnifying glass. I just love that thing. It's the same with laser discs. Just that they were the exact same size as an LP. I just love that. Yeah. Is that the La La Land one?
Yep.
You see, that's gorgeous. Yeah. There is something about that, but
I almost didn't buy this, but I'm very glad that I did.
You didn't buy the expanded ET, or you were thinking?
I got the 35th. I haven't bought the reissue.
Yeah, I mean it's exactly the same, apart from it's just got 40th on it.
Yeah.
So I mean I've got the.
Yep.
I'm quite happy with that, but that bigger size.
Yep.
But yeah.
Do you think you would listen to your LPs if you had a record player?
Do you know what? I've got most of them now on expanded CDs and remastered CDs. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it when they go in and from scratch and make things better? What's the word? Anyway, yeah, I've got most of them on CD now, so I probably wouldn't listen to them. And I'm one of those people, rightly or wrongly. I just think CDs sound better. I know a lot of people think LPs that sound better. If that works for you, that's great. Do what makes you happy. I'm not here to say well, you're wrong, because you're not. You're right. You're doing what you love to do and what you. But yeah, I probably wouldn't listen to my LPs even if I had a turntable. But they hold so much sentimental value, those LPs, because I remember where I was when I bought them, why I bought them. Yeah, so many memories in them, but probably wouldn't play them anymore.
Do you have one piece of music that you consider like your personal theme?
This is going to sound not really, but there used to be a piece of music that used to come into my. This is going to sound really weird, and I don't know if I should say this out loud, but I'm going to say it anyway. I used to work in a pub on the Royal Mile in Edinburgh, at the top end of the Royal Mile. I worked there for, yeah. It's a pub called the Jolly Judge. It's on the last stretch just before you get to the castle at the top of the Royal Mile. And I worked there for about 3-4 years. And every time I used to go to, it's a very small, compact pub, but the toilets were upstairs. And every time I went to the toilet, or every time I went to the bathrooms upstairs, for whatever reason, I always just have the same piece of music in my mind. I don't know whether it was like Pavlov's dog. You get to a certain point of going upstairs, and this piece of music always used to come into my head. And it was the hijacking from Air Force One. So And it is, you know, the
Yeah.
every time I turned the corner to go up the stairs, it was until I got up the stairs, and then it kind of went out. But
Well, that's a pretty kick-ass theme.
yeah, that was my going up the stairs to relieve myself theme tune. But yeah, I shared that, but I shouldn't have done. But yeah, I mean,
So if they made a movie about your life, who would score the movie? Anyone living or dead?
Jerry Goldsmith.
Jerry Goldsmith? Okay.
Jerry Goldsmith. And I would insist it was mostly orchestral.
Okay.
I mean, I know he loved his synths and his electronic stuff. He could do that, but I would keep it to a minimum. You know, some of his scores from the 80s. He loved experimenting. I love that about Jerry Goldsmith. But sometimes, you know, some of his electronic stuff, it was great, but it's very much of its time. But yeah, I would insist that he kept the electronics. But yeah, Jerry Goldsmith would score my life.
Okay.
And then if I didn't enjoy his score, I would throw it out and I would get John Williams in to rescore it for me.
What if you didn't like what he did?
Yeah, and in fact, I would do that. I would get Jerry Goldsmith to score it. Then I would lie to him and say no, I don't like it, and then I would get John Williams to come in, so I would have 2 scores. Is that right?
That seems a little sneaky, but okay. That's your answer. We'll go with that.
Yeah, I'm sticking with that.
Okay.
Well, I'm taking that if the same with you, you would have John Williams, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay.
Or if you could just like write like a theme for like my dogs, I would be happy. And you like a 10-minute piece of music just for my dogs. Because it would have some excitement and some playfulness and some sorrow and some comfort and probably more mischief thrown in, and then like a big rousing adventure finish to it. So John Williams, if you're watching this, get on it, because I'm not getting any younger.
Neither is he, and
neither is he.
He seems to be on fire with his composing at the moment as well.
Fableman's come out what, November?
Yeah.
And then Indiana Jones in June.
Is it June? Is it
June? And then that's probably
that's him. That's him. But he doesn't seem to be slowing down though in the way of work though. He seems to be conducting everywhere at the moment.
Not enough for me, but
well,
probably enough for my bank account to sustain.
Yeah. But what was that fanfare he did for the Hollywood Bowl recently? The Centennial.
Something Hollywood.
I would love to see that get released.
It will. Don't worry.
That was a fantastic piece of music.
I'm sure Deutsche Grammophon will put that out.
That's another thing I love about discovering new music. I mean, thank you again for getting Nixon for me, but that opening track, I'd never really heard it before because it doesn't appear in the film, does it?
It's trailer.
Yeah, so that's what blew my mind hearing that first track. I thought, wow!
I've got that live from the Boston Pops on my cell phone.
I've heard that one.
I lost my shit.
I am.
Way.
I was amazed by that timpani and the percussion on that. It was just.
Oh, God, that's awesome! Yes,
it was just earth shaking. It was just wow. But the thing is that's what you don't get from listening to recorded music. I mean, when I saw the Royal Scottish National Orchestra for the first time do a John Williams concert, they opened with "Summon the Heroes."
Mm.
You know, boom.
Yeah.
When that boom, when you hear it live, it's just wow. It's just incredible. And that's what, you know, hearing your recording of, sorry, not your recording because you didn't record it, but that the Turbulent Years, just the Boston Pops doing that, just ooh, and you just don't get that feedback from listening to a recorded version of it.
Yeah. And I got to meet Keith Lockhart like the following day after another concert they did. And I said, "Thank you for playing Nixon. Oh my Lord, I can kiss you." He's like, "Well, usually people just talk about Star Wars." I'm like, "Fuck Star Wars. I hear it every damn time."
Superb.
I don't really mean that. But I'm saying, because, you know, hardcore people, I love Star Wars. You play it every time. There's so much more you can play. You know, if you got to do Star Wars, do something different from Star Wars, please. Please, you know. But
yeah, it's always good when they play the slight, you know, the stuff that you weren't expecting.
yeah,
Have you ever heard was it Variations on Happy Birthday or Happy Birthday
yeah,
Variations? I didn't. I'm not a huge fan of that piece, but it's a great showcase for the orchestra because just about every part of the orchestra does it. But it didn't really do it for me. But it's a fun thing. But I love it when they'll throw in pieces like that you probably wouldn't hear apart from being recorded on a CD somewhere. So I love it when they do that. What's the most obscure piece that you've ever heard from John Williams in an actual concert, or something that you wouldn't have expected to be in a concert?
Heidi. I'd say Heidi.
Oh, right. How long ago was that?
Summer 2019.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the same
Wow.
concert with Nixon, and they did Towering Inferno. I think that was it for the obscure stuff. Was Heidi, Towering Inferno, and Nixon. And
Towering Inferno must be great live.
I'm sorry?
Towering Inferno must be great live.
Yeah. I don't really care for the score as a whole, but the opening track is pretty rousing.
Yeah.
I feel like Keith Lockhart teased me because he said, you know, this was a John Williams film night, and he said, "Many people don't know that John Williams has scored other movies besides Star Wars. He did a TV show called Lost in Space." And I went, "Woo!" And I was like, "Play it!" And they didn't play it. And I'm like, "Bastards.
Why did you mention it if you're not going to play it?"
Yeah, they could have played it. Come on now. Come on.
Yeah.
But maybe next time. We'll see. Or they'll just kick me out eventually for being rowdy. But yeah, I will get rowdy at a concert.
Yeah, that's I took my best friend to I took him 20 years ago to Jerry Goldsmith's 70th birthday concert that Jerry Goldsmith actually conducted, and the only thing he recognized in the whole concert was the theme to the Waltons.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean, I think he was bored to tears. It wasn't his cup of tea at all. But you know that suite of TV themes that Jerry used to do. As soon as the Waltons theme kicked in, he was like, "It's the Waltons!" So really loudly, and because it starts off quite quietly, and then you could just hear Waltons echo around the whole auditorium. It's like, oh God, shut the fuck up!
I love your friend. He's awesome.
Yeah, but
did they not do Gremlins?
He did the Gremlins. I think was it Small Creatures? It was a suite. It was small soldiers coupled with Gremlins.
Okay.
So the theme Small Soldiers, and it segued into the Gremlin Rag. But he started off the concert with, at the time, so this was 1999. The most recent Star Trek film was Star Trek Insurrection. So he started off the concert. He didn't say anything. Just came out, you know, up on the podium and started da. And I had a tear roll down my face because I was seeing Jerry Goldsmith conduct, and they were conducting Star Trek.
I'm so envious of you.
And it was just, I can't put it into words. It was just brilliant. But you know what? They did play a lengthy suite from Planet of the Apes, which was just that couldn't be over quick enough. But he did. When he did come out, he's saying, like, there's some unusual orchestration. We've got percussion at the back. They've got these metal bowls, and he got them stand up, and he got them to demonstrate what he was doing. All this kind of, just brilliant stuff. So yeah, but that was a dream come true. I'm so glad I saw him once in my life, and it was on his 70th birthday. But yeah, so that was awesome.
Do you have a favorite, I guess, golden age film composer?
I would probably have to say Miklos Rozsa. I love his score for Ben-Hur. I loved the film as a kid, and then it was kind of in later years that I fell in love with the score for that film. It's just a huge, epic score, and I've got about, I don't know how many different versions of that score.
Do you have the box set?
I do, yeah. That's because when you messaged me on that saying that you got this, I said, well, that's great because I knew from experience that the price that you paid for it was brilliant. But yeah, I've got the Tadlow re-recording, which is very good, and I've got the original MGM expanded soundtrack, which is also part of that 5 disc, or was it 5 disc? Yeah, it was 5 discs, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. The box set, yeah. But I love Franz Waxman. Love his score for Taras Bulba. Is that Franz Waxman? I think so. Yeah. The Dmitry Tiomkin, Alfred Newman. Alfred Newman was still going up to I think he died, was it 70 or 71? His final score was for Airport, and there was no sign of this is a guy at the end of his career, because he died. He was only 69, I think, when he died, but he was still pushing out just fantastic music right to the very end. Didn't Alfred Newman win 9 Oscars?
I think so.
Yeah.
He was also like director of music at Fox, so that kind of had something to do with it.
Yeah. And was Lionel Newman, was that his brother or his?
I think this is his brother.
Yeah, because he kind of took over in the 70s, didn't he? So.
Yeah, he did the conducting on the Omen movies.
That's right. Yeah. He did a lot of conducting for scores in the 70s and early 80s, didn't he? So. Yeah, but again, it's only in later life that I've started catching up on these kind of these older scores. When I was younger, I always felt they were a bit, I don't know, what's a bit overly dramatic, a bit old-fashioned. But I've changed my mind, and especially with things like that.
Yeah,
showcasing what this music's like. It's yeah.
And that's the Charles Gerhardt box set that you can buy for really pennies, not quite pennies, but $30-$40. It's 12 CDs.
12 CDs.
Yeah, 12 CDs.
12 CDs,
and it's not a crap orchestra either. It's a top-notch orchestra with a top-notch conductor.
Do you know what? I'm quite surprised. Sometimes the National Philharmonic Orchestra can sound a bit rough and ready, but I think that's probably down to the length of time they had to record scores and maybe rehearsal times. Some of the film scores they've done, but this is just phenomenal. But yeah, there's Max Steiner, Alfred Newman on here, Dmitry Tiomkin. There's loads and loads of things. But yeah, if you haven't checked out the kind of the oldie worldy scores, please do, because there's some great stuff on from those composers. Yeah. So what about you? Did you have any kind of?
Bernard Herrmann.
I like some of his, but I think Eric said, some of his stuff is works great in the films, but it's quite a hard listen sometimes. But it really is fantastic music and way ahead of its time, I think.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. There's some John Williams scores, I've listened to once and I just filed them away. It's like, okay, I don't care for Family Plot.
Images,
and sometimes maybe I just wasn't in the right frame of mind that day. I just need to go back and revisit it, and probably one day I will, and I'll be like, oh, okay. I mean, Presumed Innocent, I like the theme. I really don't like listening to the album.
I'm the same. That's why I didn't go for the expanded version. I think, well, the thing I listen to most is that main theme.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is just, yeah, great for the film, but it's not a great listen. So, yeah, I'm quite happy with the original version of that.
You see, it's not that I don't like piano music, because I love the Hours. I love the Accidental Tourist. I enjoyed Stanley and Iris a great deal, but for the reason Presumed Innocent just didn't. It's like, okay, it's just not what I'm in the mood for most of the time.
Yeah.
So.
I don't have it, and I listened to it on streaming, but and I've never seen the film, but I love his music for Heartbeeps. I know
I enjoyed that album more than what I thought I would when I got it.
Yeah. In some circles, people go, "What?" But it's quirky and fun. And I think it's a good kind of combination of synthy stuff and orchestra, which is unusual for John Williams. But I enjoy it. Give me another question.
I think we're kind of nearing the end of the questions. Unless you can think of a question.
Up and coming composers, or kind of new composers in the past 10 years.
I'll tell you who I've discovered in the past couple of weeks, thanks to that quartet sale, and Eric Woods. Damn that man.
Damn that man.
Fernando, say it for me.
Velasquez, or as Dave from Skirwingle probably pronounce it, Velasquez.
Okay. Well, I think he speaks like 12 languages or something. So God bless him. But yeah, I just got Sexy Killer from eBay. I've got a few more coming from Brazil, which is like, I hear this other country somewhere down that way.
I'm aware that it is another country.
Okay. But yeah, I've greatly been enjoying him. I like Alexander Desplat. I'm sure I butchered his name. But I talking to a friend, Andrew, and he's just like, it's gonna be horrible when John Williams, stops writing music. And I'm like, stop saying that. I agree with you, but let's not think about that. But there is, it's like people, like in the comic book community, people complain, there's no comic books to buy anymore. Bullshit. Have you bought everything that they printed for the past 100 years? There's so much out there that you haven't heard, you haven't read, you haven't watched. You will never run dry on entertainment to read, listen to, or watch. You just got to go out and you got to find it.
It's the same with film music. You get it all the time on Facebook. People saying, that there aren't the big melodic orchestral scores anymore. There are. You just need to broaden your horizons.
Yeah.
There's great music out there, and there's people on, all the different Facebook groups that are promoting all this. I mean, was it Fernando Velasquez? People like they just need to. They're so blinkered. Think, well, John Williams isn't doing this. We've lost Jerry Goldsmith, we've lost James Horner. So there's so many more things out there to listen to. You just need to look for it and listen to people's recommendations.
Yeah.
Having been on Facebook for the past couple of years, I've discovered so many great scores, and in places I wouldn't even thought about looking. All over Europe, South America, just Japan. Japan, there's some great stuff coming out of Japan. Just everywhere. Just look for it. It's there.
I just
Great.
recently got into the Godzilla scores. And I view that, it said like a year and a half ago, you're going to start collecting the Godzilla scores in LP. I'd be like, I don't think so. Yeah, okay, I have. This is okay.
Yeah, I mean, and Japanese love their film music. They're huge fans of film music. Uh, Jerry Goldsmith did concerts there, and they're forever holding concerts of film music. When they're with their various, they're just great with film music. So yeah, people, if you're listening, there's film music out there. Go look for it. Join these Facebook groups. Listen to what these people are recommending, and go listen to it.
And you can listen to most anything on YouTube for free.
That too, and almost everything is on YouTube as well in some form or another. So, and all the major composers, most of them have YouTube channels, or YouTube creates channels of their music. So it's all there to listen to. So go and listen to it.
Yeah, I get annoyed sometimes when I'm out, and somehow the YouTube channel will come up, and I'm like, yeah, I do a YouTube channel, and they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I do soundtrack shows, and they're like, oh, I just love John Williams and Hans Zimmer. Okay, I'm like, you said like the two names that everybody knows, It's like John Williams and Hans Zimmer. Okay, cool.
Do you know what? I've said this before. My job is I work on a surgical ward here in Edinburgh, in the Western General Hospital, and it's not the biggest job in the world. I help out nurses so they can get on with their jobs, but I help out with patients. I take them teas and coffees and just generally do things around the ward. But what I started doing a couple of months ago was I take my iPad in and I put it on the drinks trolley. When I go into one of the rooms, I'll play a theme tune or a piece of film music, and it's generally 4 or 5 beds in one room. There are some single rooms, and we just make it a kind of quiz thing. So, do you know what this is? Can you guess this TV theme tune, this film? And when I first started, I was doing Rockford Files, Star Wars, Superman, just really recognizable stuff. But now I'm starting to play more obscure stuff and saying, look, you probably don't recognize this, and I'll give them clues, and it's just just a bit of fun. But a couple of people have gone away and thought, well, I really like that piece of music that you played. Where can I listen to that? So, well, it's on streaming, it's on this, that, and you can listen to it that way. So it's just a way of it's an audience that can't get away from my music, but I love sharing that kind of stuff with them, and it makes me feel good, and it makes them feel good. So, yeah.
Have you enjoyed doing your YouTube channel?
I have. Do you know what? I started it during lockdown, and I had no idea what I was doing. I don't have all I've got is my phone and my iPad. So I edit it all on the iPad, and I had no idea what I was doing or what I wanted to do with it. I started off doing silly things. Then I met you on Facebook, and then you invited me on one of your shows. And then I thought, I can do stuff on film music. Love film music. I can talk about that. So thank you, Daniel, for kind of giving me a purpose with my channel. But that's what I decided to do. It's rough and ready, and I'm still learning, still making mistakes, but I really enjoy it, and I think we've got some good, you've got a lot of followers, but we've got a kind of a core group of people that are enthusiastic and follow us.
I think we have a very good community going. I'm looking forward to where it's going to go in the future.
Yeah. But no, I'm really enjoying it, and it's great to have a group of people to share this love of film music with, and that understand. When I say I love this particular moment on this score, and they go, yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. it's great just to hear somebody say that, they recognize the
Yeah.
same thing that I do. Just love that. So I'm loving doing it.
Well, thank you for coming on the show today and sharing your soundtrack journey with everyone on the YouTube.
No, well, I feel honored and appreciated that you'd asked me to do this. So thank you.
We are 1/3 of the Batman Show.
I am.
And everyone, if you have not subscribed to Ian Clark, please do so. The channel is just Ian Space Clark. He does review soundtracks and movies, and he's got a replicant roommate and a demonic emu creature that shows up from time to time.
I don't think that sells it very well.
It's probably lurking in the background right now. But tune in Mondays for Ian and I and Eric Woods for the Batman Show. Movie rewatches on Wednesday. Random unboxings when I get stuff in the mail, which sometimes it's quite often, other times not often enough. And we will have more of these in the future. If you are interested in coming on and telling me and the rest of YouTube your soundtrack journey, I would love to hear it. Until then, adopt, don't shop, keep listening to great film scores, and we will see you all later.